In today's episode, I sit down with Noah Kagan, the founder of AppSumo, to talk about what it's really like to start and grow your business. Hi, and welcome back to the Unconventionalist podcast. I'm your host, Mark LaRousse, and today I had the privilege to sit down with Noah Kagan, who in 2010 founded AppSumo with $50 and grew it into an 8-figure business. Now, you might have heard the stories of him being employee number 30 at Facebook and then getting fired, and how he helped Mint.com get known. But what you might not have heard is all the stories behind the scenes of what it's really like to grow and scale your business. And Noah dives deep into today's conversation, shares things that he hasn't shared before. And to be honest, at the end, stick around, because you're going to hear me share something I've never said publicly yet. So check it out, enjoy today's interview, and if you do, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because there's going to be plenty more interviews coming your way. And if you'd like me to interview someone in particular, write their names in the comments below. Enjoy the interview and see you next week. Noah Kagan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, awesome. Someone was asking me, like, how the fuck did you get Noah Kagan on your podcast? And I was trying to think,
Really?
like, how did I get Noah?
How did you?
And I was trying to think about it. And I think it was when I recognized one of the restaurants on your Instagram stories. And that's how a conversation started around food in France.
Oh, you're that guy. Excuse me. And now I totally know who you are. So what I've been
it's like, no, you know, you're it's like, who are you and why are you recording this?
I think it's really fascinating when we respond to people and why we respond, right?
Yeah.
So as gentlemen or men online, if a girl emails you, any woman, you're like, oh my God, a woman's emailing me, and we're creepy about it. That's honesty, whether no one admits it or not. And I don't think women do the same, because they're the ones that hold the power. They have all the power. So everyone comes to them. But what's fascinating about that, just with marketing and business and life, is most of us, you get what you want when you help other people. And we all know that. Everyone that I've ever met in my life, you never meet someone and be like, hey, if you help more people, you'll get more things. It'd be like, yeah, of course. But we don't do it. What do? We're like, hey, give me this. I want that. Do this. And I'm like that too. And so it's interesting with our experience, where I think you saw that I was in France. You said, hey, I just want to send you some recommendations.
Yeah.
And you were actually just helping. And so I was like, well, you know, kind of like the Hare Krishna, you give them a book and I'm like, okay, let's go dancing in the streets and But anyways, yeah, I really appreciated you sending those recommendations. And I've actually been trying to get that mindset, man, where now when I'm emailing people, I'm like, here's something I can help you with, or let me do this for you. And then not even ask for anything. Don't even like try to ask.
To be honest with you, the intention was literally, I just saw that you were at restaurants. Like, let me send you some stuff. And then you asked me, you should start a business about something like an unpaid business in Paris. And I said, no, I've already got this business. We've got this podcast, and actually it'd be cool to have you. And you're like, yeah, cool. So you're here.
Good.
And dude, I've got like so many questions. I know
Let's do it.
So here's the reality. Out of all the guests I've interviewed, you have the most prolific presence online I've come across. It's impossible to consume all your content. There's so many videos, so many talks, so many podcasts. So thanks for making me spend the last 2 days trying to listen to a whole bunch of your talks way back when. So the story, I'm not going to get into too much of the story because your story is so well documented. I'm going to put it in the show note.
Yeah.
But I will say is this, there's a bunch of questions, and one of my interests is trying to ask you questions that you might have not been asked before.
Yes.
You were like quite curious. So the first one is, what's the question you get asked the most?
Yeah, and I think I try to frame it in the idea of like people listening.
Yeah.
And it's not, no one, here's something I've realized about as I'm older, which is wisdom. No one cares about me. The only person that cares about me is my mom and my stepdad and my brother. Like outside of that, like my girlfriend loves me, but like my parents care. Like they just have they have the same blood.
Sure.
And I think that's true with everything in life. Like no one cares about you. And the more that you can accept that, the more you can actually get other things and do other things. Because we all think we're unique. Like I remember talking to someone who had a family, and they're like, I have the weirdest family ever. And I thought to myself, I said, everyone thinks that.
Sure.
Everyone thinks their family is like the most, oh my God, you won't believe my family. I'm like, that sounds like yesterday to me. I think the most common question is probably around Facebook. Like, you know, me working there early on is one of the most common ones.
Does
how
it
I
get
started.
old? Does it get, I mean,
Yeah.
I was just asking, because every time I heard you tell that story, I just thought, does it get old after a while? Like, hey, Noah, how do you feel about missing out on $100 billion? You know,
All that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, what I was thinking about this morning is what's interesting for me is that we all have stories. And I don't know if it's from Tony Robbins or who the hell said it, but maybe Oprah. I'll just say that Mark Luce, how do you pronounce your last name? Luster?
Yeah, mate, you know what? I was going to start the interview by saying Noah Kagan, the founder of AppSumo.
Sumi Ichibi,
Yeah, I haven't listened
that
to
son of a
the
bee.
interview.
The guy can't pronounce it. But so what's interesting though,
Anyway, yeah, sorry, go for it.
LaRue?
Larousse, yeah, it's French. My dad's French.
LaRouste.
Yeah, there you go.
So, well, here's a quick tip for everyone out there. Always be able to say person's name properly. That's just tip number one.
Yeah.
Second tip, Mark LaRue. LaRouste?
Larouste. Yeah.
LaRouste. So get it right, everyone. Second tip that's been fascinating is that we all have these stories, man.
Yeah.
We have these stories of, this is who I am. This is my natural tendency. This is how I do things. And so this morning, I was just like biking to work, and I thought, what of my stories is totally bullshit? And it doesn't even mean I don't have to agree with it, but like, are there any stories that I'm thinking, and I didn't come up with one concrete, but I was like, are there any stories that I could just even challenge?
Yeah.
And I think when you challenge your, like, this is how I always do things, you can start thinking, is that how I actually want to be or not? So, yeah, just something I was thinking about with the stories that we tell other people or the stories that we're known for, and you determine what that is.
Yeah. And there's a topic, it's funny because I saw that your YouTube channel, there seems to be like a massive increase in activity, both on your podcast that you've launched, we'll plug that in, and also YouTube channel. And there's a video that you made, which I thought was really interesting because it was very different than the rest of the content I've seen. And that's to talk about your hair.
Yeah, I'm fucking bald, dude. It sucks.
Yeah, and I'm just curious, like, how was that for you to sort of put that out there, which I know is different than sort of the typical kind of the marketing content and growing and starting a business, and how was that for you to put yourself out there in that way?
Pretty good. I always find it funny when people are like, hey, you're so honest. I'm like, why is everyone else such liars? I thought it was an interesting story. I mean, my day job and my full-time interest is sumo, right? Yeah. Appsumo.com or sumo.com. And my hobby, my 20% time, so the way I look at it is 4 days a week I do sumo. 1 day a week I get to fuck around. And that's 80-20 if you look at the math.
Yeah.
And, I experiment with what gets people's attention.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying a lot of different things on YouTube to see like which type of topics people care about. And so I thought the bald one would be interesting. And, I think that what I've realized for being bald is that one, the problems that we face or the things we notice about ourselves or our life, we think about it way more than everyone else.
Yeah,
like you probably have a freckle that like, you're like, dude, there's this freckle mole on my chin mate. It's crazy. And I'm like, dude, I've never seen it. I've never. Yeah. Oh, it's more of a Australian.
Yeah.
And it's more of like a Southwest Australian.
Yeah.
And my mom's from New Zealand. Mom is from anyways. So number one, we care about our own things. What I've noticed is that I care about my baldness. Like I talked to a girl yesterday and she's like, I never thought you were bald ever. Even now, I don't really realize you're bald.
Yeah.
Like obviously my hair is bald, but she's like, I didn't think you were balding. And I'm like, every day, like I'm counting the hairs. I'm like 45, 46. So that was number one. And number two is that it was interesting going bald and putting the video out there based on the more that you just face things like, all right, fuck my hair. I'm just going to shave it. All right, I'm fat. I'm just going to get on my scale. Hey, I'm just going to put this out there and then face it. You kind of realize like, it's not that scary.
Yeah.
No, putting it out there. Oh, excuse me.
No, I get that. And I think that the whole idea about testing out different things to see what sticks. And one of the things that actually you mentioned today was Tony Robbins. And I wanted to pick your brain on that because I know that you were on their podcast like last year in 2016, right? And then this March, I think you wrote an article on okdork.com about how you walked out in the middle of a seminar with Tony Robbins.
Yeah, I'm really trying not to bite the hand that feeds. I hate when people talk about people behind their back. Just say it to their people's face. If you have problems with people, say it to their face. Obviously, I don't like text Tony Robbins. Like, hey, what's up, man? We're like Snapchat friends. But a lot of people, it's what we were talking about when we started the show. A lot of people love Tony, and frankly, he's helped and changed millions of lives.
Yeah.
And I think that's great. And I look at life in it like a restaurant, or advice, and a lot of things like a restaurant. Some people go to a restaurant or a movie and they loved it. And they said, hey, Mark, you got to go to this restaurant. It's the best thing I've ever had. And then I go to the restaurant or because you told me to and you recommended, and I just don't like that dish.
Yeah.
Or I didn't like that.
It's a bad restaurant. It means that food. Yeah.
It's just not for me. And so Tony's helped a lot of people. For me, it was just not the experience I did have things I wanted to work on. I want to work on some of my work stuff and I want to work on my personal. And I think with my message and why I put myself out there is I do like attention. I won't hide that. But a lot of my messages is like, look, bad things happen to you. It's probably worse things happen to you than not you, but to the listeners than me. And it's bad things are going to happen inevitably. Yeah. And so it's like, how do we move past that? How do we learn? And, it's still bad things are happening to me and that's going to always happen. So how do I learn from it and grow? And so the Tony experience was, I thought there wasn't any really content out there about
Yeah.
what's the other side of a Tony Robbins experience. Like it's this weird thing. And I just wanted to share what it was like because everyone I talked to said, oh, you're going to change your life.
No, I get that, mate. I mean, 100% get it. I think I had so many, they get almost cultish about it, right? It's like people kind of go, oh my God, it's going to change your fucking life. You're never going to see. But that's why I just thought it was really honest. Anybody listening to this, definitely go and check out okdog.com.
Yeah.
Tony Robbins and Noah Kagan, and it'll come up. There's another thing. There's a theme I've kind of been hearing, and tell me if I'm completely off here. But how long have you been doing now AppSumo?
Well, we have appsumo.com and
a
sumo.com.
$1.5 million web domain.
Yeah, dude. Actually, I'm really happy with that. We can talk about that afterwards. But yeah, I've been doing AppSumo March 2010. So it's coming on 8 years.
Yeah. And that's the question I had for you, because how are you finding now that the other end of the spectrum where you've kind of gone through building it, got the team, it's kind of grown now, and now it's about sustaining and scale. How are you finding that challenge and that journey compared to like your more natural state, which might be about, hey, how do you go from creation to implementation and making it real, right? From idea to creation. How are you finding that stage?
I go through phases, man. I think it's like everyone in life. Like sometimes you're just like, this is awesome. One story that was funny for me is that I think anyone who starts a business or yourself to start a podcast, the easy thing is to start. It's like a diet. You could do a diet for a day. Like I'll tell you, for today, you only eat watermelon. That's my mom's diet. She just eats watermelon all day. But do it for 10 years. Yeah. And if you can do it for 10 years, you'll be successful, or you will have profit, or you should have some level of customer base. But what we all do is like we start. And I think where success comes from is how do you persist for extended period of times and hopefully keep improving.
Yeah.
And the story was with my business partner. I went to him and I said, Chad, I love starting new businesses. I've got that entrepreneur disease. I'm sick, man. I'm real sick. And he said, and I said to him, I'm like, dude, how do you love just coming to an office and maintaining things and growing things and, taking what I fuck up and fixing it. I like the 0 to 1 and you like the 1 to N. How do you do that, man? How do you stay with the boring stuff? Because to me, the exciting stuff is the new stuff. And so Chad says, he's like, you son of a bitch. I like the new stuff too. And you have to realize Chad is like I'm like the energetic one of the family.
Yeah.
And he's like okay. Yeah. Sounds nice. Oh, yeah. I like starting new things. And so I'll use the quote that my 16-year-old ex-girlfriend used to say all the time. We broke up. We're not together anymore. But she'd always say, she's like, Noah, make it fun. And I'm like, you effing woman. She was crazy. She cheated on me a bunch at 16, which is weird.
Jesus.
Yeah, she's got some issues. Yeah, we all do. And, but she always would say it to me, Mark. She'd be like, Noah, make it fun. And I'm like, okay, fine. I'll try to figure out how to make things fun.
Yeah.
And what was interesting though about that, maybe she had some wisdom in there, is that no matter what, it gets boring. And here's what I mean by that. Think about I don't know if you follow any celebrities on Instagram or Snap. Eventually, they're just drinking a bottle of champagne with another hot chick in another city. Like even watching it gets boring. Which you're like, no way. I'm like, it does. It's super boring.
Yeah.
So
how many hot chicks can one dude only take on Instagram?
It's like the same eventually, or how much food can you eat, or how much alcohol can you drink, or how much experiences, or how much bicep, whatever it is. It eventually gets boring. And so what you have to do with anything is like, all right, how do I make it fun for myself? How do I innovate? Because mastery and some type of form of success it comes when things get a little boring.
Yeah.
And not just going to the new thing. And I have to remind myself that. So with AppSumo, we evolved to create the sumo business. And with sumo, it's like, I've done marketing now 17 years online.
Yeah.
So, but for me, I'm like, all right, there's certain things that I know and let's do those well. And let me hire people and train them to do that. Sure. But then there's all this new stuff in marketing that's exciting to me.
Yeah.
And I think what the some things that are exciting to me, Facebook bots are really interesting. I think video as a search engine and growth channel is really interesting. Mm-hmm. Amazon as a marketing channel, really interesting. And so that stuff is interesting. I think what you have to realize is that how do you work on things that are fundamentally interesting for yourself? What do I mean by that? When I wake up in the morning, I go read tech news. No one pays me to do it. No one asks me to do it. I love it. I want to see what's new in tech. Yeah. And so I think for people out there, and I'm only telling what works for me, just go find that stuff.
Yeah.
Because for me, people are like, hey, would you sell AppSumo or Sumo for a lot of money? And the answer is yes, I will, for like $20.
Everyone's got a number. Everyone's got a number, right?
Yeah, but it's not, the thing that someone asked me that recently, and I said, well, okay, let's talk about that scenario. let's say we sell for $100 million. Okay. After taxes, after I share all the money with everyone who does all the hard work at the company, I have some money where I don't have to work again. I already have enough where I don't really have to work, which is not even that much.
Yeah.
It really is not that much. What do you think I would go back and do? I'd go back and keep doing this.
Yeah.
So you've heard that there's that Mexican fisherman story?
Yeah.
Hey, they give the Mexican fisherman bigger boats and more money, and then eventually he just goes back to fishing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's actually, because I'm looking at the clock, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much more to cover.
No, we're good. Hey, I'll tell my other guy, we'll push back just a little bit.
Okay, cool. There's a topic, you know what? It's interesting. I surveyed 100 people for this interview who wanted to start a business. Yeah, true story. And I asked them, what were the 3 biggest challenges that are getting in the way of starting a business? Because I wanted to know what was number 1. Can you guess?
Fear.
Yes, that was in the top 5.
Oh, money.
Yeah, number 1.
Money, co-founders, fear, don't have an idea.
Okay, so I'll give them to you now. So if you want to know the 5 was money. Second one was confidence.
Fear.
Fear. Yeah. The third one was time. I don't have the time. I've got commitments. Fourth was an idea. I don't know what the right idea is. And the 5th was, where do I find customers?
I had like 4 to 5. Not bad.
Yeah. So here's the question about money. And this is something that actually personally, I also struggle with. And then it's a question that I got also from people asking me to ask you, which is around, why do you think so many people struggle with the concept of A, asking for money? And I think it maybe even goes deeper, B, making money.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, I think it's one and the same. Making money, like if you think about, like, let's break down what a business is, right? A business is, hey, I have X thing, service, product, time, software, hardware, whatever, and I want your cash for it. It's an exchange of it. And so you have to ask them like, hey, give me this money for this thing. It's an ask if you break it down to its essence. And there's a lot of fear around that. I still have fear at times about asking. And so I have to push myself. Last week, I was at the airport. And I do this thing at the airport where if anyone has the newspaper, and this lady, I'm glad you read it. I do it again. I still do it to myself. She had a newspaper, and I'm like, I don't ask her. No, don't ask her for the newspaper. And I was like, you got to ask her for the newspaper. And she's reading it. I'm like, hey, can I read your newspaper? And she's like, I'm reading it. I was like, well, have you finished any section that you don't mind me reading? And she's like, yeah, sure. When I'm done with this, I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no cost to asking. And I asked, and I worked on my ask muscle, and it's a practice. And at the same time, Mark, I think part of my message that I've realized recently for people, you don't have to start a business. It's not about starting a business.
Amen. Yeah.
It's like, what are you trying to get out?
My TED talk, by the way, my TEDx talk.
No, tell me.
I'll send it to you. But yeah,
what's the highlight reel? What's the thing for everyone listening?
It's basically that everybody thinks they want to start a business, but actually what they want is a quest. And starting a business is only one way of doing it, but it's not the only way. And a lot of people would be happy in not starting businesses, but actually find something on the side that brings them purpose.
Yeah. It's funny. Everyone can make purpose out of anything. Yeah. Like, I always find that funny. Like, you could make water, like that mason jar you're drinking. To me, like, making mason jars sounds like stupid, but someone's like, hey, I give people the ability to drink water and live.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, oh, so you make whatever purpose. But I think for starting businesses, I think there's 2 parts of it. It's like understanding, like, why do you really want to do this? Is it no one can hire? Like, I kept getting fired. Right. I was like, if someone would hire me, like even now, I would go take a job if someone would pay me a lot of money. I work with awesome people. I get to work on what I want.
Would you? Did you say
yeah,
that?
For 100%. If there are certain products that I just really love, and
like who out there, like right now, if someone could listen, like who would you take an offer from? Like a business that you look up to, or someone that you'd love to work or collaborate with? Who would you go for?
Yeah, good question. I'd probably want to go work for Jeff Bezos. So if he said, hey, come hire me to like work on some division or some part of his business, I just would want to learn how they operate. Yeah. I think Slack from a technical perspective has a really interesting opportunity. There's some physical products. Like I'm curious how to scale physical products. So like backpacks or shoes, like Allbirds, or like Cotopaxi is this really interesting backpack. Possibly Apple, depending on what division. Yeah. I don't know, there's just like a lot of,
By the way, you should listen to a guy called James Eder. He was the founder of Student Beans. He came on my show. His prediction is that Elon Musk is going to buy Apple. That Apple are going to buy Tesla, and that Elon Musk is going to become CEO of Apple.
That'd be cool. You know what's cool about predictions is that you can make as many as you want and they're free, and then eventually you sound smart. It's like, hey, Elon Musk is going to die. It's like, that's a prediction. I mean, if it comes true, everyone's going to be like, dude, Noah called it.
Yeah, but back on the money thing. Sorry.
Yeah, staying with businesses. So yeah, I mean, I think one, it's just like, what do you really want? And then I think it's very simple. What do you really want? And then what is the best vehicle for getting it? And so what I've realized about running a company and hiring a company is that the best people are people who've tried to start a company or want to start a company. Why? Because they're really ambitious and they're thinking about how to solve problems and create new things. But then you have to ask yourself, how the hell do you motivate them or excite them to want to join something else? Because that's a step down. And so I think part of the evolution of business is creating environments that those people are their own entrepreneurs legitimately in a company. So they have the freedom, they have the pay, they have people around them that they're leading, and then they get to do more or less what they want. Like I just had a breakfast meeting with the guy that runs AppSumo.
Yeah, I heard you say, I don't know if maybe I'm paraphrasing here, but I thought it was interesting. You said that, some of the millennials you're working with, they're looking for meaning and purpose and they want it within 3 months and do no work for it. There's a sentence, something that I heard you say.
Millennials don't listen to podcasts.
Yeah, but do you think do you think it's a byproduct of like this kind of instant life of everything now and stuff?
Yeah, I mean that's what it is. It's the reality though. So instead of like observing it or complaining about it, it's like how do you embrace that? And I think part of that is that millennials don't listen to podcasts. Why? Because they're 30 minutes. And so I think what you have to realize though is like, well, the way you win in this economy is that you pay attention, and the people that can pay attention and focus on things will win. Yeah. Right? They can focus on listening to something. They can focus on working something longer than a year. And they'll actually probably do really well in life versus the people that are hopping every 3 months.
Yeah.
And so as someone who runs a company or helps run a company, I think it's also figuring out if that's the reality of the future, how do you embrace that? Or how do you find the people that are just like against that?
Yeah.
And it's not easy, man. It's been interesting to see. It's interesting to see it. So part of me is like, well, if I'm hiring people, be like, look, come work here 2 years, give it your all, and then I'll help you create whatever you want to create in the future for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's part of the future. I'm still exploring it and figuring it out.
No, I get that. There's I know we're coming to the end, and I've got a couple of questions from my audience that I want to ask you. One of them is actually that I've got for you is how do you cope with those kind of low moments? Like what are your sort of any strategies or anything that you do to sort of cope with the days where you you get up and you're not really feeling like showing up at work or whatever it is? Like what are some of the stuff that you do?
It's funny you asked that. I spent a lot of time doing that in the beginning of the year, meaning that the first 6 months this year, I was meditating and I was like going to therapy and trying cold showers and experimenting with my morning routines.
Yeah.
And I've kind of just given up on that. Yeah. I've given up on all this productivity hacking, life hacking shit.
Like the 5 a.m. club.
The 5 a.m. shit, because a few things. One, by the time you're in your 20s or 30s, fundamental ways of working probably aren't going to shift. Like because of schooling, you've established your work ethic and you've more or less established your work like organization, productivity systems. So to shift them like habitually is unlikely. So the two things I look at, number one, focus on the things like, here's how to make yourself happy. I'll give you a few things to make you happy. Part one though is go invest money on the things you spend 80% of your time in. What does that mean? If you spend your time on a computer, buy a better computer. Spend time on a bed, having sex or sleeping, get a better bed. Spend a lot of time biking, buy a better bike. And everything else, you're like, oh, if I can find this one tool to fix shit, just don't worry about that stuff as much. So that's part one. Just go spend money instead of all this marginal life hack shit. Oh, I can get like a toothbrush to do, I don't know, floss my whatever, but I don't know. But the point being is spend money more on things that you're spending a lot of time on because that'll make you happier. Yeah. The second part, I think, for if things aren't going well, because I've shared a lot of that. And sometimes I'm like, why am I sharing all that? Is that most of the time in life, for things that are going well, I think for me, it's a few stuff. But number one is like, what can I remove in life that sucks? Not hard, but sucks. So what are examples of that? People. That's an easy one. So who are you around? And like, who are you around that sucks? Like, what are you working on that like, you're like, dude, this is not really working for me. Not that you give up, not hard stuff, but just sucks. I think understanding where it's coming from. So like this morning I felt like shit. And I was like, well, why am I really feeling like shit? I was like, oh, it's because my girlfriend didn't text me back last night. And so I need to talk with her today about, not that I need to be texted every night. That sounds weird. Sure. But woke up a little sad because I was like, well, I texted you and she's mad because I'm going to Vegas. And that's something that we should just communicate about. Yeah. It's not something that I have to wake up annoyed with her. And it's not her fault. It's just we need to figure out how we have communication so she's not mad. I get that. And so forth. Here's a simple hack. You want to hack one? That's what everyone always fucking likes, unfortunately. If you're ever sad, just go to YouTube and search Louis C.K. and listen to some comedy. Yeah. And you just can't be unhappy doing that. That's number one. If you need like short ones, go do that. Number two, just go out and for a walk. Anytime you're like unhappy about shit, you can't not like when your blood is moving, you can't not be unhappy. You're just like, hey, I'm feeling fucking better. Lately I've been feeling great though in the morning. Well, I feel better in the mornings without, I don't know, trying to figure out, oh, it's my meditation or it's this morning routine.
Am I ticking all the boxes of the, the productivity guru, all that stuff?
Yeah, man. I think it's like we add so much stuff and maybe the overall thing is just to simplify.
Yeah.
Like not sweat, like, oh, it's all this, and frankly, at the end of the day, you're going to just have bad fucking days. And maybe the awareness that some days aren't going to be all this epicness.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I would say nothing really magical happened yesterday. It is another day. And like, yes, you can try to engineer better days, meaning that like, can you try to create exercise or activities you like?
Sure.
But sometimes even if you do all that, it's still gonna be a shitty day. And so being aware that that's going to happen and say, hey, today's shitty. What can I do to make tomorrow a little bit better? And thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you did at FinCon, right? When you gave that talk and you kind of like, I'm rich and look at my lifestyle, I'm naked on horses and this is what we do. And then you're like, actually, 80% of my time is this. And there's a picture of you like, on the laptop, right? And actually, no, it's funny. You talked about like a connection. A question I had for you was like, how many friends of yours or how many people have asked you to hook you up with Tim Ferriss? Because I know like you guys know each other. Like how many? Like, oh no, can you introduce me to Tim? Like I've got this great idea. I think you want to invest.
Well, one thing that's been weird for me recently. So with Tim, it's maybe once a month. Like, hey, can I introduce? But what weirds me out is when people come to me and they're like, oh shit, like I can't believe I can talk to you or not. I'm like, dude, I'm the same as you. And I think that gets missed. Like I'm not. And I think what I've really tried to share in my messages more recently is like, I'm not better than anyone.
Yeah.
I don't try to act better. I just live my life and I share the stories and experiences I learn. And that's the same for all these other people out there. Like Tim's got probably issues, a lot of issues. I don't know.
I met him in 2014, was it? And I'll share with it afterwards. But yeah, I agree with you. And actually your video you did, people go and check it out. If you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, go watch Noah Kagan's video. I think it's like a future billionaire or future millionaire.
Oh man.
20-year-old that you had lunch with. Do you want to share really quickly that story? What he told you?
Yeah, it was awesome. This kid emailed me, and so I'm moderately available or accessible. Everyone is accessible these days. You just have to make it worth it for them. It's in all parts of business. If you make it worth it, people will be accessible. And he's like, hey, I'm a young kid. I'm here interning. I'd love to just take you out for lunch to learn more from you. And I was like, oh, you're in college. It's so cute. Of course, I want to help. So we went out to lunch. We spent an hour and a half talking. I paid for lunch, and I was like, man, I recorded it because I thought I actually recorded on my phone because I was like, man, this is like the best conversation of advice I've ever given. And we walk out of the restaurant and we go on the street and I said, how was the conversation? What did you think of today? What feedback do you have for me? And I think that's a tip for everyone listening and for myself is like, the more feedback you get, the better your life will be, the more successful you will be because you can decide what to do with it, but at least you're learning ways to improve.
Sure.
And so he said, oh, it was pretty good. And to me, I think maybe I never thought about this, but there's a big difference between good and great. Huge difference.
Yeah.
And so whenever somebody says, I'm like, how you doing? They're like, good. I'm like, well, why aren't you great? So he said, hey, it was pretty good. And I said, well, what would have made it great? And he said, well, the reality was interesting. Is like, you're no better than me. And I was a little surprised, but I was like, go on. And I recorded it on video because I think that's a great message. He's like, look, I can do anything you did. And if you think about some of the greatest inventions technically in our generation, they're not made by the experts. They're not made by like IBM. They're made by individuals who didn't know what they couldn't do. Right? Like Elon Musk. did he have a PhD in rocket shit? No. Does Mark have a degree? No. He just started making things. Microsoft, Yahoo, Google, Amazon. Freaking Jeff Bezos was a trader on Wall Street. Created the top 10 largest company in the world. And I think that message was, but I think that message was great.
Yeah. And I think what you speak to is so true. And I think so many people don't realize this. I think I've now interviewed over 10 years because I used to be a commercial journalist back in the day, like 200 plus people. And I've met the likes of Tim Ferriss and the Chris Guillebeaus and that kind of stuff. And every single time I meet them, I'm always like, they're just normal. They're just sound, or they're just normal. And a bit like what that guy says, like, oh, this sounds really wrong. And I don't mean this in the wrong way, but it's like, oh, they're not more special than me. Like they haven't got this special magic trick that I make up, but that's why they're able to do what they do. And I think a lot of people put a lot of people in pedestals, and it's almost like a safety net of like, oh, that's why I'm not, putting myself out there doing what it is.
Yeah, I think there are people that are gifted, But to me, at least for some extent, I think we can create whatever we want in the world, or we should be able to. And I think most of the people out there, like Tim or these other people that we admire, mostly what they do is they put in the work.
Yeah.
Like I've known Tim since 2004,
Mm-hmm.
2005, excuse me, or 5 or 6. And he was working his ass off. It's not really like, it's not luck. Like he started a business. How many other people started a business? Millions. But he put in, and he wrote a great story about it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It was a great story, but he put in the work promoting the shit out of it.
Mm.
And he's still evolving and promoting the shit out of it. What is it? 12 years later?
Yeah.
Most people do it. So with podcasts or videos or startups or services, the ones I admire will do it for 10 years.
Mm.
Right? Anyone, that's what we started talking in the beginning.
Yeah,
Tim has been promoting and working 12 years. You do that, you'll be where Tim is.
Yeah.
That's the result. But everyone, including myself at times, don't get me wrong, I'm like, why am I not famous tomorrow?
Yeah. I love that. Okay, quick round of questions because I know you got to shoot.
Yeah.
Dude,
Mark, you're the man. No worries.
No, it's cool. So, this is a question from Sam from London. She says, how do you figure out what to charge, or question/mark, how do you charge your worth?
Oh, fuck. I don't know. So here's the easiest solution, because a lot of people, not charging is a way of avoiding starting a business.
Mm.
That's one thing I've noticed from helping people start businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just tell you, everyone's got a different style. Apple is like this premium, we're going to charge the most as possible because it's like rich of accessibility, right?
Sure.
Everyone can be rich accessible now. My pricing, I'm like Southwest Airlines. I'm like, give me the cheapest shit that's affordable. I'm a value hunter.
Yeah.
I don't want the cheapest. I don't need the most expensive. I want a good value. Yeah. So I could go to a restaurant, spend a few dollars on food and be happy. Or I could go to $1,000 restaurant and be happy just because I'm like, oh, they're both proportionally good value. So what I recommend, here's what I like to do. Just if you're out there and you're thinking, I don't know what to charge, and I'm scared of asking because that's what they're actually saying, give it away for free. So that's what you do. You give it away for free. And then what'll happen is if people want it, you don't have to have any guilt. Because what happens is they're like, oh, if I charge 10 and they say no, my feelings are hurt. Fine. Give it for free. Then eventually you should be so busy, if it's working, that you're like, hey, I'm so busy. Can you at least pay me $10 so that I can fit you in? And then you just keep raising your rates.
Yeah, I love that. That's a good
tip. Start free and then just get busy enough. And if you don't get busy enough, that means no one wants what the hell you're doing.
Cool. All right. Next question from Ben. What marketing mistakes did you make during the early days of AppSumo?
Number one, gimmicks. So we did a lot of A/B testing and gimmicks on like, share this for $10 off, or testing colors and buttons. And the reality of it was that the more that we just made a better product, like we found a better deal for AppSumo, it grew. So that's number one. I think number two, this is just a good reminder for everyone, and everyone should know this, but I'm going to remind you. So if you find something working, how do you do 10 times more of it? And is that new to you? Is that a new idea?
No, I mean, I've heard you say that before. So yeah.
It's not fucking new, but here's the problem. No one does it. And why don't they do it? Because they keep including shit that doesn't work. So what does that mean? It's like, hey, example, for sumo.com, we do Instagram. And we have 100,000 followers. Yay. Who gives a fuck? And we push things out there and no one ever does anything.
Yeah.
No one ever clicks on it. No one does shit with it. For us, it works for others.
Yeah.
But every month, one of the person on our team was spending $1,000 to like help run it. And I'm like, why are we even spending $1,000? That's $1,000. We could do something else. So I think the thing for marketing, you've got to be very adamant about removing things that are not working at all and significantly increasing things that are. I mean, other things that Google ads did not work for us, but it works for other people. I think you have to be open-minded to say, I think one of the things that we've done well, though, is that if something's working, try to understand, okay, well, why is that working? And then how can I do a lot more of that?
Yeah, love that.
So,
and I'll be putting resources in the show notes because there's one thing you talk about all the time is actually that your email is your ATM. I love that sentence that you go with. Around that, that's what the channel should be investing in. Okay, two last questions. Tom is asking, what advice would you give to young people who have just finished university?
No, I don't know where to begin. If I could go and do it all over again, I probably would spend 3 to 5 years just working at a company or for a person that I just want to learn from.
Yeah.
Like, so go and they're like, well, no, I don't know which mate. I don't know which company. So here's what you do. Look on your phone or go to your browser history and just look at where the hell you're going all the time. Maybe you're on Etsy, maybe you're on certain apps, and then go apply for those jump companies and do a little bit more to get a job there.
Yeah.
Right? Like, don't just send in your resume or AngelList. Like, send them a book that you think is relevant. Connect with them outside of it. Take them out for lunch.
Yeah.
Make a website for them. Most people, when they apply, they do the same as everyone else.
I sent the CV, didn't nobody responded. Yeah.
Exactly. But I would say for me, one of the biggest growth, and I wish I had more of it, honestly, I only had a year at Facebook, is being at companies or with people that can think of it. Here's a very easy way to frame it. Be an apprentice for your first 5 years of your professional career. Then you can go do whatever the hell you want. So go find a company or a person or people to be an apprentice for.
Love that. Johnny, who I think you know, well, at least you might remember him, told me to ask you about the performance feedback revision rap, whatever that is.
Oh, wow. It's Baba Brinkman, who is a rapper about evolution science. And he made a rap song about like performance feedback revision. You can search it on YouTube.
Yeah. Cool.
And I actually love the rapper so much. I like flew him out to Austin to perform for Sumo. I love rap music. So I think it's nice to have theme songs. It's nice to have like, you know how like you go to the gym or you do exercise, you have this pump up music.
Yeah.
I think we should have more like business pump up music. Like, yeah, I'm gonna make that money. Like, and I thought his message is good. Like, go perform, get feedback, and revise it. And I was like, man, what a great method or message for all businesses out there.
Yeah. If you had an email list and you could ask them 3 questions to survey them, what would the 3 questions be?
For what?
So I'm going to guess it's for an online business, someone that they've got like a mailing list of like 1,000 people, and they're trying to figure out who the hell are actually paying attention to my emails. I mean, I'm going to make a wild guess.
Yeah, they're making a bunch of guesses there. I would ask just one question, like, hey, what are you working on today?
Yeah.
And then most of the time, people tell you what they're actually doing during the day. Then you can start helping them with things.
As opposed to what you want or what you're looking for.
Yeah, what do you want? Oh, fuck. I mean, think about this. What do you want to do for dinner? You're like, I don't know. That's a broad question. Hey, do you want Mexican or Japanese? It's easy, Mexican or Japanese. So a lot of times the way you frame a question, you'll get better, more likely what you want. So what are you working on today shows how they're prioritizing their time or money.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can have a second question about, hey, can I go do that for you?
Yeah.
Because if you email people like, hey, what's something I can help you with? They're like, I don't know, my wife hates me. Can you help me not get divorced? Or, another question. Here's another one. If you're trying to start businesses, I like this one. Hey, what's been on your to-do list over a week? Right? Because if it's on your to-do list, like I have stuff on my to-do list that's been over for a week. There's probably 10 businesses through that one.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, hey, here's stuff on my because that's easy for me to just go and look. Oh, it's booking a flight, finding the shipping, doing whatever other things.
Yeah. Cool. We're coming towards the end. I've got a couple of questions of my own, but before I do that, I just want to say thank you, like a genuine thank you, because I forgot how I came across you, but it's been at least 4 years because I was one of the early testers, I think, of the 1K a month program that you guys have.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah. I was. At least you guys are just launching because it was dirt cheap. It was so cheap when I got it.
Oh yeah, it was really cheap.
It was like your phone. You were filming yourself on your phone, and like you were like in your room. You're waking up at midnight and like recording yourself. Which, by the way, people, if you go and see Noah Kagan, like if you just transform dramatically your body over the last few years, but that's a whole other conversation.
It's been a fun one. I mean, I think that's a good one for everyone. Like if you want to be successful in business, just like go exercise or just don't even worry about exercise. Just work on your diet a bit.
Yeah.
Like a little bit. And then you'll have energy and be happier and have more sex and you'll have a great business.
Yeah. So I just want to say thanks for like being honest and genuine in your marketing. Like it's really meant a lot to see someone else that has a very similar kind of philosophy about stuff. Okay. My last round of questions.
Yeah. One thing I would just want to thank you for saying that. I think what I've realized like through running online companies or just businesses in general is that at some point money, yes, we all want money. This is what rich people say. Yeah, I don't care about money. It's like, yeah, bitch, because you have, shut the fuck up. There's a lot of people who don't. But eventually it's like interesting. And what I've noticed for myself is I care less about the money now. Like, yes, it's nice to have more,
sure.
But I care more people that like get a benefit out of what I make, like either through the content or through sumo.com or through AppSumo. That to me is my real reward. Like, so I do appreciate you saying that. And I think that's a good thing for others to think about.
What's one thing most people don't know about you?
Bald. I like Asian women. but I have an agent.
You say that in all your interviews.
Oh, do I? Oh my God, I don't even know.
Yeah,
My
mate,
girlfriend's going to be pissed.
Well, your former, mate, your old interviews before you were with your girlfriend.
No, why? That's always, she's Asian as well. I'm learning, I learned Hebrew. People know that. What do most people not know about me? I don't know. I'm pretty open with a lot of things I'm up to. I mean, I'm insecurities. I have insecurities. My hair one was one for a long time. Self-sabotaging like my dad. I think a lot of people, that's actually a common one that I think I've mentioned to friends, and other people have that too, about self-sabotage or that. I think I want to spend more time with my parents as I'm getting older. That's something I'm thinking about more of. Like how we get older, we move further away from our parents, and they're like, they made you.
Sure.
And they're the most like unconditionally supportive of you. So that's probably something people don't know. I'm trying to spend more time with my parents.
Yeah, and it's I haven't announced this officially on the podcast, so I'll do this live with you now. But I'm gonna become a dad myself, and I know that before we kind of got on the podcast, we kind of talked about it, and you said, oh, we should talk about it before, so you could look back. We didn't get time to talk about it, but that's something.
What are you expecting? So what I'm thinking, and what are you expecting in like the first year of it to be like, so that when we come back, you actually are like, hey, this is what I thought, and this is what it is.
Oh my God. What I'm expecting it to be like a real roller coaster, if I'm honest. I think because of all the stuff I've heard from friends and stuff, so I'm expecting it to be like one of the most amazing experiences that I've never really felt before, because I've heard that it's a whole new level of love. It's a different type of love. So I'm expecting to love in a way that I've never loved before. Not in better, but just different. I'm expecting to have a lot more gray hair, either on my beard or because I'm going bald, or on my head, much more like bags in my eyes. But I'll tell you what my intention is. I just want to do my best. That's it. I think there's so many books out there, so many people telling you what you should do. So my hope is just that I trust myself a bit more. I know it sounds a bit wanky almost, but that I try and just go back to my intuition and just, we've been doing this for fucking hundreds of thousands of years. I lived in Africa for like a year, and I've seen conditions of babies being born and raised in ways that you're like, that should not survive. No way. So I'm like, surely it can't be that bad. It couldn't be that bad in the West. So yeah, that's I think my expectation.
What are you most scared of?
That I won't be a good dad. Yeah, I think I'm scared that I'll fuck it up. I'm realizing now, as you said, I'm a little bit younger than you, and I'm realizing just how much our parents have an effect on us, and how much the stories we have relating to our parents have an impact on us. And so I just want to make sure that, that I don't fuck it up. That I'm having a girl, a daughter, which I'm afraid, because I don't really know how to relate to girls in that way, because I've got a brother, I had uncles and all this stuff. Yeah. That I don't royally fuck it up would be the bottom line.
Yeah. Someone said that to me I asked one of my best friends, I said, how do you, it's such a big responsibility, and you meet all these people who are like, I fucking hate my mom. She loved me too much. Or my dad was always gone on work, or my mom was always gone on work, whatever. And I was like, man, don't you feel nervous about that? And I don't have kids, so I can't give you advice.
Yeah.
Because I only give advice. I don't even give advice. I think my advice always, don't listen to my advice.
Yeah.
I only share my stories. But I asked her, I said, how do you, aren't you scared? She's like, here's the thing. Like, I only got one suggestion for you, if you ever have kids. I was like, what is that? She's like, just give a fuck. I'm like, really? She's like, yeah, just give a fuck. And that's it. And if you do your best and you give a fuck about your kid, then, you're going to do your best job. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of a very simplified way of, doing your best, and, hopefully it all works out.
Love that. Final question. What does being unconventional mean to you?
I mean, I think convention is like the norm. So I guess going against the norm is what most people would say, for what unconventional is.
And what for you?
For me, I don't think unconventional means you always go against the norm, because sometimes the norm is better.
Yeah.
Like if we only had sex in people's ears, that's unconventional. That's unconventional, but it's not really, I think, a way everyone's like, yeah, man, I'm doing ear fucking today. I can't wait for it. But I think the point that I like to think about is just like, are you like on certain things, just thinking about it? Yeah. I think that's what unconventional is that, my brother's really good about it. Everyone does it one way. He's like, well, is that actually the best way possible for myself? And if you're thinking about it, you're going to lead in that's potentially an unconventional way. Because most people probably just aren't thinking. They're just following blindly.
Love that. Love that. All right, people. Thank you so much for giving us some extra time now. I so appreciate it. OKDog.com. Noah
Namaste.
Kagan presents, right? The
Yes.
podcast. And I'm loving the episode, so keep that up. That's been awesome.
Thank you, man.
And sumo.com. People go and check out.
Himi. Himi.
Simi.